Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody is Doing It Right, the podcast for those who are uncertain. My name is Kat, I am your host, and I am officially back. I was visiting family in Greece for the last month and a bit, so I haven't really been creating as much content as I normally do. It feels a little strange being back and talking into a microphone for probably about 10 minutes, as my podcasts usually are. So bear with me if I fumble or stumble any of my words, because I'm realizing that it is kind of a skill to be able to talk for any period of time, or to create any sort of video or audio content. And it's, if you don't practice it, you kind of lose it, you know? If you don't use it, you lose it. And I'm realizing that now. So I am excited to be back and get back into the swing of things. For anyone who is interested, I also am now offering my one-to-one calls again. I couldn't do that when I was abroad, but we're back at it. So if you're interested in booking with me, you can find all that information on my website. It'll all be in the show notes below. But for today's episode, the topic is about how you can and will figure it out. And this is something that I now have to constantly remind myself of. I feel like throughout most of my life, especially when I was younger and very uncertain in myself, I felt like there were certain things in life that I couldn't figure out. And it led to me having a lot of anxiety. Like in my early 20s, if you knew me, I was riddled with anxiety about so many things. And I'm not saying that I've now magically cured myself and gotten rid of it, or I think it is normal and part of being human to be anxious about things, of course. You know, it is a survival mechanism to keep us safe. We have to be anxious sometimes, and that's valid. So I am by no means advocating for completely getting rid of anxiety and feeling and confidence equating to never being anxious or stressed or, cautious or anything like that. But I was riddled with anxiety to the point where it was debilitating sometimes. And it really affected the way I was able to live life and just experience things, right? Everything I experienced was tainted because there was always the fear of something going wrong, or if this thing went wrong, I won't be able to handle it and it'll be the end of the world. And, whatever spiral I would go down. And I'm sure other people experience this as well. But I now, as I've gotten older, you learn more as you get older, you experience more. And of course, with the help of my therapist for the last 5 years, I've gotten to the place now where I can confidently say and believe it when I say it to myself that I can and will figure it out. And obviously, like when you're starting this journey, saying that to yourself, you're not going to believe it at first, because there are many things in life that are scary and out of your control that you won't be able to fix or make better. But that's not really the point of that kind of phrase, right? Because even in moments when you cannot figure something out, even if you fail at making something better or fixing it, you are still kind of figuring it out. You are still learning something and understanding something and gaining something from that failure in fixing it, that is allowing you to take a step back, reevaluate, and move forward in a different direction that will hopefully be more aligned. So even if you don't figure it out, you figure it out. And I've had to really understand about myself, and something that I kind of tell other people as well who experience this, that you have to also show yourself the respect in believing that you are capable of figuring it out. You can. You're capable of it. You're not incapable. You're not useless or pathetic or completely and totally a victim to all your circumstances. Of course, things happen that are out of our control. We can't control everything. But you'll figure it out. You'll figure something out one way or another. Something will come out of it that you will be able to sort through in some way. Again, this does not mean that figuring it out does not mean making it better or perfect or everything being okay and negating all the bad things in life and being like, I can just ignore that and only thinking positive. Like, no, that's not at all what I mean by this. What I mean is, even in those moments of bad, and fear and anxiety, there is something that you will figure out within that in whatever way, just to help you feel better about some part of your circumstances, because you're capable of it. And not only are you capable of it, you are worthy of it. You have to remind yourself this is the inner narrative that has to shift, right? You're capable of it and you're worthy of feeling okay. And in order to feel okay in whatever way possible, even in the smallest way, it means you have to figure it out, and you'll figure it out. And I think for me, as I've allowed myself to really sit with that narrative and that new story, it's really helped me feel a lot more comfortable in doing new things and trying new things, because I'll always figure it out. I will figure it out. And that does not mean that things that happen to you won't be uncomfortable, that they won't be painful, that you won't feel awful or bad or pain. Of course, that's part of life. There's no way to avoid that. But knowing that and accepting that there are parts in life that are going to be really, really fun and pleasurable, and some that are going to be really, really bad, knowing that those two, polar opposite sides of things exist, it makes it easier to then allow yourself to feel comfortable in knowing that, and I'll figure it out. It's not about trying to get rid of the bad feelings. That's impossible. That's just part of the human experience, unless you completely and totally numb yourself emotionally. And that's not what we want, right? Because in order to feel pleasure and happiness, you do have to, in a sense, feel the opposite of that, right? One does not exist without the other. But the point of figuring it out is, okay, I know these things are going to happen. I know things are going to feel like shit sometimes, because that's part of the human experience. But I also know that I am capable and worthy of figuring it out. And I will figure it out. And I can do it. And that's it. Like, that is the most neutral and certain part of things that I think can make you feel a lot more comfortable and okay with circumstances as they arise. Because for me, it's like, I haven't stopped experiencing stressful things. I haven't stopped experiencing those things that trigger my anxiety. But now, whenever I do, I also have this tool in my tool belt, the tool of, I'll figure it out. I will figure it out. And also using evidence from your past to prove it to yourself, because you have figured out a lot of things in your past, right? If you really think about it, you figured out a lot of things, whether you consciously did it or unconsciously did it. You sorted it out. It sorted out in some way. So if you could do that then, why is this situation any different? It's not. It's the same kind of thing, just in a different way. So use that evidence from your past experience, make note of it. This is why I love journaling. I always recommend journaling, because you can document these things as they happen throughout your life, and then have reference for them where you can look back in the future and look back at yourself back when you were experiencing something and how you sorted it out. You can use those as evidence to prove to yourself, see, I've done it before. I can do it again. Because in moments of deep anxiety and deep stress and deep fear, we forget that we have those experiences. We forget that we have those skills and those tools in our tool belt. We do. And we just have to remind ourselves of it. And I think it's important to have these these kinds of affirmations. But affirmations need to have like a foundation to them that is strong and impactful and resonates with you deeply, right? Because it's one thing to just say certain things to yourself. And there is value in that, because of course, like, you say something enough, you'll start to believe it eventually. But I think the things that are the easiest to believe and have the most impact the fastest are the things that truly have that level of like intention to the foundation of them, right? I can and will figure this out because I am worthy of it. And life does not stop sucking sometimes, but I'll figure it out. I figured things out before in the past. I have the skills. I have evidence of this, my ability to figure these things out. So I can do it. And I think over time, you remind yourself of this, and then you see more and more evidence of you doing this. It starts feeling a little bit easier to just exist and to live life and experience the ups and downs, because those are unavoidable. They will happen. And that's also something that I've had to really, really accept throughout my life. For a long time, I tried to avoid the bad, right? I tried to avoid having bad things happen. And that is, it's impossible. You're never going to avoid bad things happening. That is the nature of life, good and bad. It happens in cycles like that. It's when I stopped trying to avoid the badness and the perfectionism of it all, like trying to make my life perfectly safe and comfortable and always okay. Once I accepted that, that's not going to happen. Like, there will be bad. It makes it so much easier now to understand, okay, what do I need to do, or what can I do to make it feel better? What are some things, whatever it might be, to just make myself feel a little bit better during this time, to feel a little bit more okay, or to maybe shift my circumstances in some small way, even if I can't completely change them and completely make them be 100% better. Because again, that's impossible. And that is rooted in perfectionism, which of course I struggle with, and I know a lot of other people struggle with as well. But yeah, it's a matter of just really accepting that if the bad's going to be there, because of course it is, this isn't a place for toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing by any means. If the bad's going to be there, because of course it is. Shitty things happen. What can I do? Because I know I can do it. I have the skills to do it. What can I do right now to make it feel a little bit better, to sort it out a little bit, to figure it out in some way? And reminding yourself that I can do it. I can do it. Even before you do something that feels like anxiety inducing, but you still want to do it because, it might be something that a goal or an achievement you really want to try, you'll figure it out. You'll take that first step and you'll see how it unfolds, what happens, how you feel, and you'll figure it out from there. And also giving yourself the time, the patience, and the compassion to be able to do that stuff, to be able to figure it out, right? Not berating yourself if something goes wrong, showing yourself compassion, giving yourself time to process things, to think about it, to reevaluate, like being as kind to yourself as possible while still also understanding that I can't do this. I don't have to coddle myself all the time, right? And I think for me, that's been one of the biggest pieces of my personal growth journey. Trusting myself, right? That level of self-trust, trusting myself to be able to figure it out, because I always have and I always will. And that doesn't mean you have to do it completely alone. This isn't about hyper-individualism. You figure it out and it's just you and you don't ask for help. No, figuring it out might be that you ask someone for help. That's great. That's the point of having relationships and connections with other people. Again, we're social creatures, right? We need one another. And that is one of the reasons why we need one another, for support, for help, for figuring things out. We cannot do those things alone all the time. Of course, there are some things you can do alone, definitely, and some things that you should only do alone. But other things, no, it's okay to ask for support. That's also a big thing too that I've had to learn, because sometimes it's easier and safer to feel like I can just do this. I'll just do it by myself. I don't have to tell anybody. I don't have to be vulnerable with people and show that I have this weakness and I need support. But that does not get you very far, especially for the things that you do need support in. There are some things that you will need support in, and that's totally okay. This has been a bit of the theme in my life now after coming back from my trip and realizing that things can change, but no matter in which direction they change, you'll figure it out. So if maybe there's something in your life right now that you're going through, or some sort of shift or change that's happening, you'll figure it out. You can and will, because you've done it before and you will do it again. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it was insightful, and I'll be back again next week with another episode.